So that means that no matter what wealth you've amassed in Kenya, if you ever decide to leave Kenya, you cannot take it with you. So we came here with zero. We actually, didn't even sell our house or cars or anything over there. We just gave it away to friends and family there. So philanthropy comes from that bringing because, when we came here, that mantra stayed with us. And again, to try and give back wherever you can. And I really like entrepreneurship because for the most part, most of the entrepreneurs I know give back. They may not give back when they're really operational and they're trying to scale their business, etc. But I find after they've done that, or when they're well on their way in that journey, they do give back, and that's what keeps things going around. And that also goes with being a community builder. My day job, if you will, is being an investor. So I'm a venture capitalist and I'm an angel investor. I have about 110 roughly direct investments. That means these are companies that I have invested in through my family office or through one of the funds I manage, etc. And the last point about me is family first. For those that know me, I'll prioritize family first, meaning there could be an amazing opportunity and to make money or to do something. But if it affects my family in any way, I will not do it. And that, has always helped me. And we have a really strong family. We're very close with, my parents, my brother, my sister-in-law, my in-laws, etc. And I really cherish the family first mantra. So what drives me? Solving problems. Back home in Kenya, we had a VHS player for all of you young folks. You probably don't know what that is. It's pre-DVD. It was something that you'd put a cassette tape in. We had a VHS player and a Betamax player, and I was always trying to figure out how the hell does this thing work? How does the tape go in the sense that it reads that magnetic stripe, and how do the mechanics work? So I'd open up everything. I'd open up our TV. Most of the times I was never able to put it back together, so my parents got really mad at me. But it was just the curiosity in me. I just love to open things and not break them per se, but just to see, is there a better way of doing it? Nothing is impossible. I mean, to me, impossible, it should not exist in the entrepreneurship dictionary because everything's possible. Given time, money, resources, creativity, you can do anything and everything that you put your mind to. The other thing is, I'm not a believer of, if it ain't broken, just leave it alone. I actually think if it ain't broken, break it, because somebody will. Somebody's working in their basement right now, in their garage, and they're breaking something that you think works perfectly fine. So why not that be you, right? I mean, if I look at my journey, everything I did, I wasn't the first to invent contract management software. It was already out there. I'd seen it. I wanted to make it better. I wasn't the first to invent IVR or interactive voice response. It was out there. I just wanted to make it better. And, I can go on and on. But that's what I've done. I haven't really created anything new. I've always looked at something that's already there and made it better. The entrepreneurial spirit is something that, I don't want to say it can't be taught, because I believe it can be taught. And if I look at my background, that's exactly it. My mom was a teacher. My dad used to work for Honda. So he did not have his business, like his own business. He worked for somebody. But it's a thinking that they taught me. And they just taught me, in terms of being creative in how you think, thinking about how can you, make money from a business. So my grandfather back in Tanzania, he had a shop. So he was a, true entrepreneur, if you will. And I always remember, I think I was like 5 or 6, I'd go to work with him. And it was like a little convenience store. And, you sell, milk, and you sell, everything from milk to a hammer, right? Like, it was just one of those things that had everything in it. And I just remember at the end of the day, because it was all a cash business, right? It's Tanzania back in the 80s. And so, and they had an inflated currency. So you'd have suitcases of cash. And every night we would count the money. And that was the funnest part for me, is every night counting all the money. And, back then it's kind of, I really liked the whole concept of business and how you could sell something to make money at it. And so my grandpa would teach me about, the difference between how much you pay for something and how much you sell, the costs, and, everybody that you have to pay for employees, etc. So learning those skills, I think, was really important for me. And then the final thing on, what drives me is just doing good and lifting those around us. It is, again, something where I get a lot of pleasure in giving something rather than taking something. And it's just my personality. It's just, if I can, help make somebody else's life better, it just gives me that euphoria. It just gives me that sense of satisfaction. And I like doing more and more of that. Some of the lessons I've learned in leadership is ethics, values and morals first. So what I mean by that is, there are things when you can do something and you can make a lot of money at it. What I do is I ask myself the question, should I do that? Is that the right thing to do? And I'll give you a real life example. A few years ago, there was the maker of the EpiPens. Okay. He did a market research study and found that they could charge 9 times more, or maybe more, I forget the number, but that many times more what they were charging for the EpiPen. Because if you're a parent and you have a child that's allergic and you need that EpiPen, you're going to pay pretty much anything to get that life-saving device. Okay. And he figured that out. Now, so he went back to his board and to his team and said, we should charge, X times more because we can. But was that the right thing to do? Right? And that's the question is, you always have to look at it and say, I can do this. It's legal, but is it the right thing to do? Legality and ethics are two different things. So for me, it's something that I've learned that if you follow your ethics and values first, everything falls into place. I had a friend who sold his company to the Campbell Soup Company, and it wasn't a soup product. He had a baby product, but they had a very small portion of their goods that were not tainted. It would not have harmed a child by any stretch, but it had gone bad, and he decided to take the entire batch, millions and millions of dollars, and just scrap it. And that was his customers were forever loyal because of that, because they knew they could trust him. That even if there was a little bit, of a problem in the product, he would scrap the entire thing. And so, just learning from people like that, just helped me understand how important values and ethics are. I had the privilege and honor of spending a weekend with Warren Buffett pre the last election when Hillary Clinton was running, and we were at his country club in Omaha, and just asked him a question. I said, "So what's the one piece of advice if you were to give me?" And I wasn't looking for stock advice or anything like that, but I said, "What would you how do you navigate your life?" And he said, "It's simple." He goes, "I just picture whatever I'm doing as the headlines on the next day in the Wall Street Journal. And will my mom or dad like to see that, or will they think of me poorly?" So it's just his reputation with his family, right? Will it be positive or negative? And he goes, "That's how I guide what I do." And it was very simple. It was, again, the same for ethics and values. Next item is learn from others. I didn't do that well. So when I started my first company, I had an opportunity to build an advisory board or to, talk to other people. But being the new entrepreneur that I was, I thought I could just do it myself, right? And I did it. It worked, but it could have been way better if I'd asked for help. And the funny thing is the resources were there. I just didn't tap into them, right? So as I grew the next business, et cetera, I started asking for help. I joined organizations like, Young Presidents Organization and things like that, where I could join others and ask them for help and learn from them, etc. So as any entrepreneur right now, my first guidance to them is just build your support system around you, because you're going to need them a lot. The next item is, just being way harder than you think. And every business I've been in, I thought it was X level of, difficulty, etc., Y level of, money I'll need. And I was wrong in every prediction. Every prediction was wrong. It was way harder, way tougher, took way more money, cost way more. So I don't know if you can ever plan for it. The way I've done it is, if I think something's going to cost X, I add 30% or 40% to it. So I come up with my best guess, and then I add to it, because I know I'm going to be wrong. And so I'm still going to be wrong, but hopefully I'm not going to be as wrong. In terms of raising money, I was always afraid to raise money because I didn't want to lose other people's money on my idea. Now, I'm not saying that's a good thing, but what it does, what I learned from it is I'd like to prove it out first. So creating that first product, the MVP, if you will, the pilot, the first use case, etc. I tried to do that with my own funds, my own sweat equity, et cetera, and try and take as little money as possible from others, only so I could prove it to myself that it actually can work, and then go and raise money. And the last point on this slide is just celebrating the failures. And I know it sounds odd, but a lot of the greatest innovators I've known, including Google, I spent a lot of time with Google because they were my customer, Microsoft, etc. They all celebrated failures. So when a project, team would try and do something and it failed, rather than getting, whacked around or given, whatever, scolded or whatever, they celebrated that. They said, this is great because you tried something. Yeah, it didn't work, but let's focus on what we can learn from it. So celebrating the failures and then learning from that makes you a better person. For me, it definitely has. So every failure that I have, everything that goes wrong, I look at it as a learning opportunity. And what does that mean for me personally? I'm never sad. I'm never, upset, because, people will look at me and, we lost during the operational days at Upside, we lost a really big deal. And, my team was like, just don't seem upset. And I said, I'm not, because we have learned and can learn so much from that our next one's going to be even bigger. Right. So it's just keeping that, and that allows you to be positive as well. A little bit more lessons. We've talked about the longer. So in my businesses, I've run out of money, almost run out of money several times. And again, it just goes to proper cash flow forecasting. I can't stress enough, you're going to need more money than you think. So plan for that, right? And be a lot more proactive than at least even I was, because, I was looking at it, I'm like, yeah, no, it's coming. And then it doesn't come, right? That sale that you're counting on didn't happen. And I know at one point I was like 2 months away from being completely broke, and had to raise money urgently. Now, at that time, the dot-com bubble had also burst. So raising money was not going to be easy. Fortunately, because of my credibility, what we had done to date, et cetera, I was able to raise that money in a hurry, actually in a day. And so it worked out. But boy, was that a stressful time. Optimizing when to raise funds externally. So that means, when you're looking at other people's money, whether it's institutional money, an angel round, et cetera, what I've learned is it's important to not try and get too much. So, I said, make sure you plan for enough money. Enough money doesn't mean lots of money. Okay, and I'll explain what I mean there. Raising money is a science. So if I have a new product that hasn't been proven out, et cetera, my valuation is going to be low. Okay. If I've got a paying customer or two paying customers and they're going to speak, positively about my product or service, my valuation is going to go higher. So when your valuation is very low and you don't have credibility, raise just enough money. Okay, so if you thought the budget was $100, add 30%. So raise 130. Okay. As you get more traction, you get customers, etc., it's okay to go out and raise every 3 to 6 months. I have a lot of companies that do that. Okay. So don't be afraid of that. So hit your next milestone, then go out and raise again. Right. So valuation is going to go up if you do things right. Raise the right money at each valuation milestone. The next item is past successes does not equal current or future venture success. And what I mean by that is just because somebody had 3 amazing exits doesn't mean the 4th one's going to be great. The track record is actually you have a home run and your next one is actually going to be I shouldn't say actually, but odds are it's going to be a failure, right? So as I invest in companies, I'm very keen to learn their track record. Many of them will come back and say, oh, our founders have had 3 exits, et cetera, et cetera. I don't always look at that as a positive thing because I look at it more from what have they actually learned? What was the first exit, the second exit, the third exit? Did they actually learn from each one? Did it get better, et cetera? What's the culture like? What are the ethics and values and all that kind of stuff? So just because I was successful at 3 or 4 companies doesn't mean I'm going to be successful in my 5th one. Solid engaged network. So this is again, the earlier point on making sure you have the right resources. So, I'm sure you're leveraging the Mawji Center and the resources NEAT has. I'd strongly encourage that because again, you have a lot of opportunities there where they have the handbook as an example. They have the mentors that you can learn from, the lunch and learns, and so forth. Take in as much as you possibly can. Build your network. There's tools like LinkedIn and so forth. Use those to connect with people, and use that same mechanism to not be afraid to ask for help. Right? Many of you have reached out to me on LinkedIn and asked me questions, and when I can, I'm always there. I may not be able to do it that same day, but I will always try and help. And it's as simple as sending me an email, and I'll answer what I can, what I know, and if I don't, I'll maybe give you guidance and say, go look at this or go talk to this or et cetera. Use that again to build your network. The more connections you have, you never know when they come in handy. We talked about the family and we talked about the values. So I am at 20 minutes, 22 minutes. I'll stop there and go into questions.
So you can either put your questions in the chat or unmute and show your face. Okay, we have one in the chat.
Let me bring up the chat window here.
I can read it if you want.
Oh, okay, sure.
I would just like to know how you raised capital for your first company and how much did you raise? Oh, there's 3 questions. So how much did you raise? How did you raise it? And how much did you sell? How much did you sell your first company for?
Okay, so I've had 4 companies that I've built and sold. The first one was an IVR company, an interactive voice response company. The good thing on that one is I didn't need to raise any money. It was buying. I don't know if you're familiar with Dialogic, but I don't even know if they're around. But Dialogic used to make these IVR boards, and what IVR is basically currently, when you phone Air Canada or WestJet or whoever, you get that automated voice that tells you, press 1, etc. That's what I built. The government of Alberta would give out welfare checks, and so what would happen is people would phone in just to find out how much they're getting and when they're getting. So you'd have live agents answering all those questions. Okay, but it was the same things they always asked for. So all I did is I built a system that automated that whole thing, right? And so money-wise, it was, I don't know, a few, maybe 20, 30 grand. I can't remember the number, but that's all I needed. And I had that because I was working with my services company, which I then sold, quite a few years later. With my product company, that's the one that I almost ran out of money on. And so my first round, I forget the numbers, but it was $1 million or $2 million, somewhere in that range, that I raised, and it was done, like I said, in a day. The number, how much I sold the company, is a confidential number, so we're under NDA. I can't disclose that. There was a number that was disclosed publicly, but that was one part of the business, and so we can't disclose the full amount on that. Sorry.
It was a big number, okay, people? Okay, Jordan, did you want to unmute and ask your question?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, perfect. So I'll just kind of read what I posted in the chat there. I'm just curious about what your thoughts are on the esports industry, if you're aware of it at all. I know Mark Cuban has been super, super critical, saying it's a poor investment, but people like Gary Vee, they own an organization. They own like a franchise slot, which I think was $25 million. And I just wanted to comment and say I really resonate with the being afraid of people losing other people's money. When I've managed budgets in the past, I've always tried to over deliver and like over stress about, making sure that the budget spent is spent very, very, very efficiently.
Right. Esports is not a key. I mean, I have probably 2 or 3 companies that I've invested in, but I would not be able to tell you much about the industry because I'm not a domain expert. The reason I invested in those companies is they had a really strong team, and I look for my ingredients in a team are not just domain expertise. So they need to be passionate about what they're trying to solve for. In these specific companies, the founders were very passionate about esports. Knew technology really well, had built amazing teams in the past, etc., and also had some moats. Moats meaning they had either patents or they had a know-how that it wasn't easily replicable, and so that was the reason I invested in. I think esports is something where it is a category that will grow rapidly. Especially in an online world, and it just if anything COVID has taught us is that you got to embrace the online world. So we'll get more and more things that will happen in that format. With esports, again, it gives you that escape using that mechanism. So I think it's going to grow. Is it as good as other industries? No. I mean, AI and health would be my best industry to invest in because guess what? We all need healthcare. And guess what? We all need it fast and accurate and all that, which is what the AI component brings. So that's my number one sector that I invest in.
Am I able to follow up on that at all?
Sure.
Just to piggyback off that, like I have a lot of experience in the esports industry. I was just wondering because I haven't done extensive research on your investments or anything like that. What companies within esports have you actually invested in? I'm just curious.
I have 110 plus. I'd have to go through my list.
Oh, okay.
I don't remember every single one. I'm sorry. I don't remember the names.
Oh, that's okay. And I just want to bring up a stat regarding its growth. Like in 2019, World Finals for League of Legends was pushing numbers that were on par, if not better, than the Super Bowl for that year. So it's
Right.
definitely a very, very growth industry.
It is. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Other questions?
Yeah, any more questions?
Yeah, I got a question.
Awesome.
I was wondering, I guess, what makes an idea stand out to you, and how likely are you to invest in new ideas, whether it's something someone presents to you and asks you as an investor, or something you maybe find on LinkedIn or some other website?
Sure. So to give you a frame of reference, I get about maybe about 600 pitches a month. Okay, so 600 ideas a month that are formally presented to me. So forget about, if I'm at a conference, a virtual conference now, I guess, what people
Yep.
share. This is 600 formal ideas. I never invest in an idea. I invest in
Okay.
the people and the execution behind it. I have to be firmly believing that that person pitching to me has the ability to execute the ideas.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
As they say, there's a
Andrew,
million. There's a
Andrew,
oh, sorry, I was going to say, as they say, there's a million great ideas, but execution is what really matters.
Okay.
Andrew Harder, Tessier, did you want to read your question?
Yeah. So my question was, actually, what was the exact wording? Yeah, what are your deciding factors when choosing to pursue a business opportunity?
So as an investment, you mean?
When you were thinking about starting up a business,
Yeah.
like what
So
makes you choose one over another?
I've never chased money. So to me, it's been about passion. I need
Oh,
to I need to. Can you hear me?
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I need to love what I'm doing, right? So, when I started my services company, it was IT consulting, and I'll tell you. So after I graduated from Nate in '92, pretty much all my colleagues did the smart thing and found a job. Uh, I didn't. Only because I know myself and I know I cannot work for anybody. I'd make a horrible employee. I'd be the worst employee you ever have because I wouldn't listen to you. I'd do everything opposite of what you want me to do. I'd probably mess things up, break things, and so forth. So just to be respectful to the employers, I decided not to seek employment. Instead, I started my own company, and I did consulting work. And the reason I did that is because I loved IT. I loved programming. I loved making things better. And I thought the best way is why don't I start a company and do that? And I started off with myself being the sole employee, and then I think it was in 3 years I had an opportunity to go big and bid on a contract and ended up winning a $60 million outsourcing deal. So I went overnight from being myself to about 100 and some people. So I learned management very quickly overnight. But that was the reason I did that. It was a business or a sector, if you will, that I loved. I love programming. I love making things better. Um, Same with with the IVR. It was the same kind of thing. I just love that whole concept of computers doing your work for you, right? So they were answering the phones, they were telling me the information I need, etc. So that the humans could be better deployed. They could do other things that were more meaningful rather than always repeatedly answering the same questions. So again, passion has always driven me into what I've done.
Okay, and so you picked those specific businesses because they just caught your attention. You thought they were really interesting, right?
And it would be something that I would be good at. It'd be something that when times were tough, it wouldn't distract me. Meaning, I wouldn't easily give it up because I was passionate about it.
Okay.
Yeah, like if
Huh.
it's something, again, like back to my when I was sharing the slide deck, knowing that entrepreneurship is going to be hard,
Yep.
it's going to be nerve wracking, but it's going to be fun and rewarding. So if you are able to stick with it during the toughest times, then that is the right business to be in.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for answering my question.
No problem.
Really appreciate it.
No problem.
Surya has another question. What is the next breakthrough technology you think?
Oh God, next breakthrough technology. Basically anything that Elon Musk says will not be the next breakthrough. No, I'm kidding. So quantum computing is going to be, it's already there. I've invested in companies in that space. Quantum computing coupled with AI is just scary in a good way. The power of AI today, as we know it, is amazing. AI running within quantum will be just like mind blowing. The things we'll be able to do will be just super impressive. So there's some early stage companies in that. They're in stealth mode, so they're not, you can't Google them or anything like that. But I'm really, really keen to see what they have done and what they will do.
Chris, you have a question?
Hi, Chief. My name's Chris. Just wanted to start off by saying thanks for taking the time to be here today and talk with all of us and give us really good advice. Looking back on what you were talking about in your presentation, you mentioned that you were always the kind of person that took things apart and, tried to figure out how they worked. And just because something wasn't necessarily broken didn't mean that you didn't try to find a better way to do it. I'm wondering when it comes to your ideas, do you tend to talk about when you have a new entrepreneurial idea like yourself, do you tend to talk about your idea to other people, or do you kind of keep it on the down low for fear that that idea might get taken by somebody else?
No, so the answer is there's a million great ideas. So I never think that my idea is one of those million great ideas. I think it's one of the billion okay ideas. Uh, and I share it. So I'll talk with, everybody that I trust and respect about my idea, not worried about anybody stealing it or whatever, because at the end of the day, you can have the same idea being done by 20 different entities. Okay. It's who that executes well and executes quickly wins, right? So knowing that faith in myself that if it is a good idea, if it is something that I'm passionate about, something that I can put a team together, I'm going to go ahead with it. And the best way is to talk to people, again, that might be able to help me with that, because I might, well, not might, I know I don't know everything I need to know about the idea. But if I talk to the right network, the right people, I will get enough information to launch that idea. That makes sense?
Thank you. Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. Thank you very much for answering that for me.
Yeah, no problem.
Young, did you want to ask your question?
Yes. Um, so you mentioned that you have over 100 companies under your portfolio, and also when I looked at your LinkedIn, you're sitting on so many boards. And like you say, as you said, like family is so important. How do you manage your time? Or like, better question is, how do you manage yourself?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So in one of the services companies I had, after we'd won that $60 million deal, there were 8 projects that I was actively managing. Okay, and they were all $1 million plus projects. I failed at all 8. All 8 I failed at. And was that a blow? Yes, it was a huge blow because I felt defeated, etc. And what after the long and short of it is I figured out that I wasn't actually managing my time properly. It was all time management. Okay. Um, it's kind of one of those, it's a squirrel. I see a squirrel, I chase that. I do that. And so it taught me that I need to get better about time management. And so I took a course. I learned how to be more effective. And, some of the learnings are simple things like email. Uh, I have a process on answering emails. I get about maybe 300-400 emails a day. At the end of each night, doesn't matter how late the night is, my goal is to have less than 10 in my inbox. Okay. So I have other things that I do during the day besides answering email. So to do that effectively, what I do is I look at an email. So as soon as I get an email, I look at it. If it's something that I can answer within a minute, so in a few seconds, I answer it right there and there, even though there's others ahead of it. So I answer it, getting out of the way. If there's something that's going to take me a day or more to answer, I respond back to the sender saying, look, this is going to take me tomorrow or next week. Or I give them a timeline. Why? Then I'm not going to get bugged by another email from them. They're not going to get stressed. They'll have an expectation. They'll know when I'm going to respond. Those that take, between a minute and 5 minutes, I park it and I have allocated times during the day when I answer those. So I get it done. So send it, file it, done. And that's how I keep it to under 10 a day at the end of the night. Now, some nights when you're out, having friends or having fun with friends or whatever, pre-COVID, obviously, it'd be at 4 a.m. that I'd be pounding out emails. And I just learned that better not to send emails when you've had a few drinks. So it's best to wait the next day. So in those cases, the rule can slip, and it's better to answer it when you have a sober mind. So I don't know if I answered your question, but time management is a key thing. And if you can't really manage your time, there's courses out there, etc. And then you got to prioritize, right? So to me, I always have it in front of me. What are my key values? Okay. And if family is first, then family takes precedent. So if there's something that's going to take away family time, it won't happen. I'll say no to it. Okay. If I say yes to a board commitment, I do a lot of due diligence to say, what is my involvement? Why do you want me? What skills do I bring to the table? How much time is involved? Okay, so I take on things that I can commit to. Am I always good at that? Have I failed in my commitments? Yeah, obviously. But I try and learn from them.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Mel, did you want to ask your question?
Sure. Thanks, Ashif, for the presentation. I'm curious to know 0 to 100 employees is quite the crash course. So what's your leadership style? What's your management style? And how did you learn that?
Yeah, so I'll tell you, I sucked at that, like horribly. I didn't know how to build culture. I didn't know how to manage people. I didn't know any of the things that you need in leadership. So was it, taking on that? Did I know that going into it? No, I didn't know that. But what I did learn is that culture is first. So when it comes to leadership, having that culture is really, really, really important. And in a startup, your culture is going to evolve. Okay, so you may think it's X, and it's actually Y. Your team tells you what the culture is. You don't tell the team what the culture is, right? So it's important to really assess what is that culture, the real culture, and understand how do you fit into that. So as a leader, I think listening is key. As a leader, I've always known it's my decision that's final, but I have to take input from everybody. Doesn't mean I have to agree with them, but I have to listen. So understanding people's why is really key. When I'm trying to set direction or explain something or whatever, I'll start with my why. Why am I doing that? Okay. And I find sometimes even people that don't agree with me will tune themselves to listen to me because I've taken the time to explain my why first. I think Simon Sinek has a really good podcast on the why, right? Explaining your why. The other thing is just knowing that I can be wrong, and so opening yourself up for that. So if you go in with the mindset of I'm 100% right, you're not going to allow yourself to listen to other ideas. Okay, it'll be inactive listening, meaning it's coming here and coming out of there, right? Whereas if you go in with the thing saying, look, I think I know the answer, I'm not sure, it's a very different mindset you go into a meeting in. And the last thing I'll say is diversity. And I don't mean diversity in the sense of the way we know it today, with gender, race, and all that. It's about diversity in thinking. And my first real, aha moment was I was in this new group called the Henry Crown Fellowship. And it's part of the Aspen Global Leadership Network, et cetera. And it was the first time I was meeting it's 20 people in the cohort, the 19 other people, all from different backgrounds, different industries, different ethnicities, all that kind of stuff. And, when I went in, I thought it was about entrepreneurship, and it was about creative thinking. And when everybody was introducing themselves, I was kind of thinking, well, that person's not an entrepreneur. They're a teacher. That person's not an entrepreneur. They're an artist. They're, and so forth. And I thought to myself, well, I don't think it's going to work because we're supposed to solve entrepreneurial problems. And I've got, a teacher, an artist, a scientist. I'm not looking at business people. And after the first session we had, an hour, it was very apparent to me that diverse thinking makes entrepreneurship better because the artist had some ideas that I would never have thought of. Same with the teacher, so it gives you that different lens. So, if I were to do anything operational, I would first make sure that my team was diverse. Bring people that don't think like me. Okay, think the opposite because that's how I will learn and that's how the solution gets better.
Thanks. Do you choose them based on gut instinct then, or you look at a resume and be like, yeah, you would be a good fit for our team because you have a different background?
Yeah, so you could do gut instinct, and I strongly recommend that. But there are actually tools out there. So there's the DISC profile, Myers-Briggs, etc. So getting that done tells you scientifically and data driven, saying this is who you are. Okay, this is what you're missing. So finding people with those skills fills the circle. Okay, and it's important to get the circle full. You may not get it right away when you're a startup, but knowing that I'm missing this or I'm missing this is really important, so you can fill that in.
Thanks so much. Appreciate your time.
No problem.
Another question, I guess, building off of Yun's question on your kind of time management and how do you do that. What does a typical day look like for you in terms of what you're going to do throughout the day?
It depends. Some days are really busy. I hate those days. Some days include golf. I love those days, right? So it's it's at the end of the day, I'm in the fortunate position. My day is what I want it to be, right? So it's if I just want to chill and enjoy a cigar and a drink with a friend, I'll do that. Okay, if I want to golf, I'll go do that. So it just, for me, it depends. Now, when I was operational, it was, and I'm not saying you should do this because it was the wrong thing for me to do. But my day would start at 6 a.m, end at about midnight. Okay, I got about 4 hours sleep. Okay, very unhealthy. I'm not sure it actually did any good. I thought at the time it did good. I thought, that was what entrepreneurship was about, was putting in, 20-hour days, etc. I don't believe it is. I think you can work smarter and not hard, and still achieve the same results. So my guidance is do what you think will make you happy and achieve the results.
Okay.
Right? Balance your life.
Yep. All right. Thank you.
Dr. Jordan, you had a question. Did you want to unmute and ask it?
Yeah, but just wondering if you have any books you recommend around team and time management, because that seems to be a recurring theme that comes up, and I think a huge area for improvement.
I could find that. I'll tell you something about me. I am not a book reader. My attention span doesn't allow me to read a book. If a book was like a page long, I'd read it. So what I do is actually, when I get friends recommending books to me, I encourage them to write a summary to help them, which also helps me. So they send it to me. So that's how I con them into writing a good summary of what they learned. So it'll help them absorb the book better, and then it helps me because I only read one page. I can definitely find out for you, Jordan, but I couldn't be. I'm not the guy to talk to about which books have you read and what did you learn from them.
Look, I actually really like that strategy because I'm not a huge book guy myself, so I'm going to try and employ this.
It works. It works. You got to pitch it the right way. Just make it all about them. It'll help them a ton if they write it down.
Okay, awesome.
Dawn, did you want to ask your question?
Sure. My question was, have you ever started a business in an industry that you were not experienced in? And if so, what were some good lessons learned from that experience?
Yeah, I started a business in the not-for-profit industry, and it was really a company that was targeted to help not-for-profits with, accounting and legal work and marketing and all that kind of stuff. The intent was the company it wasn't designated as a not-for-profit, but it was not to make any money. So it was allowing a shared services type of approach so that multiple not-for-profits could come and pick the best-in-class marketing, accounting, etc. So it's a business that I didn't really understand, and it failed because I had done some research. I'd talked to some of the not-for-profits. I said, look, I have this idea. I'm going to give you best-in-class marketing, accounting, legal, etc. You're going to pay a fraction of what you currently pay. Will you use that service? And I always got the answer saying yes. But what I didn't know is that it actually comes down to when you can get them to actually sign a contract, and the check is very different than what they say pre that, right? So when I built the company and I had all these people, I was like, well, yeah, I kind of like what you have, but our board director's nephew took a course in marketing, so he's just going to do it for us. Okay. Not the same level of skills, but it still gets marketing done, right? And so I learned that. So what I learned is that I didn't really understand that business, and I went into it very quickly. Okay. Does that mean you can't start a business that you know nothing about? Absolutely not. I have invested in a lot of companies. So one founder knew nothing about toilets. Okay, besides the fact that he obviously sat on one a few times a day. But other than that, he didn't know anything about toilets. But he created a smart toilet. Okay, so the toilet had visual AI, etc. So it can be predictive in, when you have health issues. Okay, different kind of ailments. I guess there's a lot to do with color of things that come out of there that can tell you predictively that you're coming on with this or that. And he built this company, and now it's doing really, really well. And it could be something that could be in a lot of households. But he went into an industry which he knew nothing about, did the right research, and made it work.
Surya had another question. It's twofold. In hindsight, have you ever regretted not investing in a company? And what's the best company in your portfolio? What's it about?
Yeah, so I'll tell you a funny. I have a fortunate to have a few good companies in the portfolio. One of them that I did not want to invest in because I thought it was a dumb idea was a company that made plant-based burgers, and this was before they had done the first plant-based burger. I was pitched that, hey, would you like to invest in this company that's going to make a burger made completely out of plants? And I said, nobody in their right mind will ever eat a burger made out of plants. The company was Beyond Meat, and I went in. I invested in because it was actually a bet. So this friend of mine invests in things. I invest in the tech space, and he said, "Look, this is going to be great." I said, "Okay, well, we'll go in together," and so I put in the same amount he did, and he said, "Okay, because you're not a believer in this," he said, "if the company gets a home run, then I get to dictate what outfit you wear at an event of my choice." I said, "Sure, as long as the deal works, reciprocally." And so anyway, the good thing is COVID, I shouldn't say a good thing, but COVID happened. And so we haven't been at an event. So I'm just fearing the first time we're at an event, and he's going to ask me to wear something outrageous. So, but that was one of the best investments I made. We had a pretty good return on that one. Regretting, I don't regret because when I make a decision, right or wrong, it's my decision to own. Okay. So I have not invested in numerous companies that have hit it out of the park. But I don't regret it because at the time I didn't believe in something. Okay, one of the key ingredients I look for, I didn't believe in it. So at the time I didn't believe in it. I was wrong. I own it. I don't regret it.
Lorianne, did you want to ask your question?
Yeah, because I'm feeling it needs a little bit of a backstory. So what I would like to do is go into the greenhouse and landscaping business. And I too love technology, the stuff that they've come out in that kind of field. But my problem is part of that is also being in touch with nature and the plants and all that stuff. So if you were to come across a company to one similar, one can be done by humans, hand machines and all that, or the more technology based, which one would you be more likely to go for?
Technology based. And the reason is because it'll be a lot more scalable, right? So anything that doesn't require labor, machinery, products, logistics, etc., has a much higher chance of scale than anything that does require any of those things.
Okay, thank you.
Andrew, you've got the last question on the docket right now. Andrew Barter Tessier.
Hi there. So yeah, as my question says, how do you tell when you are too tired to work any longer in a day or on an individual task in that day? Because that was a problem that I had when I was trying to build my first startup. I found I was trying to work till sometimes 5 o'clock in the morning, and I just couldn't make myself stop. But I figured out afterwards that it was slowly causing me to crash.
Yeah, I think I think it's about I want to say you kind of know yourself, but it's as an entrepreneur, it's hard because sometimes you feel, and especially if you've grown up with that work ethic that you got to work hard, etc. It's hard to stop working. So setting timers is a really good way. right? So if you've got a calendar that you use like Gmail calendar or Outlook or whatever, setting times when you take specified breaks, thinking time, relaxing time, etc., are important. And then just setting a timer saying, I worked whatever that is for you, 6 hours, 7 hours, 10 hours. At a certain point, you're not productive anymore, right? So setting a timer saying, look, I'm just done today. Okay, it's 8 hours and I'm done, and I'm going to pick this up tomorrow. Now, if you're a surgeon, I don't recommend that. I recommend you finish the surgery. But other than that.
Okay. Well, last question. Sorry, did you have more, Andrew?
I have another one, but I don't know if there's enough time.
Can we just ask Christians first, and then we'll see if there's time? Chris, you want to ask your question?
For sure, yeah. Hello again. I'm wondering because I got caught on something you said about regrets and not doing regrets, and like that this is that when you've made a decision, you've made the decision on whatnot, on maybe not investing in something. But my question is really how? How do you not get hung up on regrets? Because I'm the kind of person that gets really hung up on mistakes I've made in the past and whatnot. So I'm just wondering if you have any advice.
Yeah, so it's again, a regret would be equivalent to a failure, right? Or a mistake's a failure. And so it's to my early point is, can you learn something from it, right? So in the investments I didn't make that hit it out of the park, I don't regret it, but I focus on what did I miss? Okay. Why did I not invest in it at that time? What did I not see coming? And if I can find that it was, I didn't explore this topic enough, or I didn't dig into this enough, that's in my learning bucket. Okay. So I've learned from that. So I look at that as an opportunity. Same with any mistakes I made. I don't focus on the fact that I made a mistake. I focus on what did I miss and what can I learn to make sure I don't make the same mistake again. Right. So it's again turning it into a positive. And it's the same thing. I get people that say, well, I want to be like this person or that person, or look at this company that has done this and all that, and they're looking at it from an envious lens, saying, why did this person get to do this and I didn't? And I look at it as, what was that person's journey? How did they get to where they are? Right? What lessons did they learn? What are the cool things they did? Right? And try and get that into my tool set, if you will, so I can learn from that. So it's just flipping everything. I'm just, maybe it's just my nature, but I'm just positive. I mean, the worst things have happened to me, and I'll be smiling and I'll look at the positives in it. And sometimes people think I'm crazy, but it's just, to me, it's why waste time with negative energy when you can just focus on the positive.
That was really
That's
helpful.
awesome.
Thank you.
Andrew, did you want to ask your question now?
Yeah, thank you very much. My question was, how do you know that you've gained enough information or done enough research to proceed onto either starting to build a project or to get to the next stage of the project?
Yeah, you'll never have enough. You'll never know when you have enough. So it's a question of setting buckets in terms of timelines, right? So saying, look, we're going to do research for a month. Okay. Month comes by, you're done the research. Okay. It doesn't mean you can't do more later, but you got to move to the next thing. There is a concept of, you're too late to the game. And in entrepreneurship, you never want to be too late to the game. Okay. It's better to be early and to have it half baked than to be fully baked and late. Right. So 80% is good enough, or 70% or 60%. 100% is actually bad. It's a killer. It will kill your business.
Why is that?
Perfection is disastrous in entrepreneurship, because the perfection equals more time. The more time you spend, equals a very low chance of success. Somebody else is doing it, right? So it's a race. It's a race. It's like, why, there's a finish line, right? So do you want to go faster, or do you want to go really slow and make sure you tap on every square and, whatever, right? If you're running or something like that. No, miss some of the squares. Just run faster. Get there.
Awesome. So thank you
Thank
so
you very
much, everybody, for joining us today. Can you please join me in thanking Ashif? A quiet applause.
Thank you all for
sharing
your
your
questions.
time.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah. Thank you so much, everybody. Next week, Monday, we have ideation, building out great ideas with Startup Edmonton at 4 o'clock. And October 4th, we have Carrie Dahl joining us for a keynote as well. So I hope you all will join us. And again, Ashif, can't thank you enough for sharing your time and your expertise with us and our students today.
Anytime, my pleasure.
Have an awesome
Take-
day, everybody.
You too. Take care, everyone.
I have a quick question about the event.
Okay, yes.
I got an email yesterday that there will be an event tomorrow. Is that suit Mawji?
Yes. Are you
Yeah.
on our Moodle course?
Yeah, like the with Carmen Masan.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I just
Yeah.
wanted to double check.
Yep, that's true. I just didn't announce it because it's really only for NATE students.
Okay.
So I didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Awesome. Okay. Thanks.
Have a good day.
Bye.
Thanks, Cecile. That was great.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you for organizing this.